I've already heard one of the women. That was the Lizzie Borden one. I don't know about the rest of them. I'll have to Google that. The men, I remember them, or at least the names growing up. I mean, they were well before my time. The guy in one, I remember that one. Huh. All right, well, I missed this yesterday, but I wanted to get it and let you guys see it. Pretty cool, a lot of information in there. The sun is going to kill this video. But I didn't know they made toys of these people, some of them. Leatherface wasn't real, but
Excellent. Then I'm just going to elaborate on one or two things. One of them is the photography policy. Photographs are allowed everywhere in the museum except for the G.G. Allen exhibit. That's the only place you can't take pictures, and there are going to be helpful reminder signs on the door frame of that exhibit that say 18 and up only and no photography. So you don't need to remember the name G.G. Allen, although it is fun to say, G.G. Allen. And you'll also know because the outside's all covered in graffiti and the inside has pictures of a naked punk rocker doing obscene things. So it's going to be pretty obvious, but you'll also have those helpful signs, and that's the only place you can't take pictures. Feel free to take them absolutely anywhere else. Now, this is an authentic museum full of authentic artifacts. Some of them are very old and very fragile, so please don't try to touch or handle any of them, especially the taxidermy. But you can play the pinball games as much as you like. They're all free for you to play. And sometimes you will happen upon items marked with a white circle with a little skeleton hand in it that says interactive. You can see it by books and magazines. You can read those. You can see it by headphones. You can listen to them. It's dowsing rods. You can play it in the paranormal room. Some fun odds and ends like that. But for the most part, you'll be giving your hands to yourself. It's a museum after all. And for the most part, your museum experience will be self-guided. But there are going to be 3 guided parts. Aside from the first room, there's the Ed Gein exhibit and the John Wayne Gacy exhibit. Ed Gein is on a regular schedule. One starts every half hour. The first one today is 12:30, and then there's one every half hour after that. It takes place in a white farmhouse about halfway through the museum. The scheduled times are also posted right outside the front door, and the guide meets people outside of that front door whenever a tour is about to start. Now, you don't have to go through the Ed Gein one as soon as you encounter it. You can always go past it and double back to catch a convenient time. You can also always go through the other guide parts before you do Ed Gein, and that one is the John Wayne Gacy exhibit. Most people do that one second, simply because you run into it pretty much all the way to the end of the museum. It's on our second floor past our true crime and cult room. You'll see a doorway blocked off with a velvet rope. If you see a guide in front of that rope, they can take you in whenever you are ready. That one does not have specific starting time. So if you don't see a guide, that means they already have some people inside. They'll be back to get you soon. We make sure we run tours of that one at least every 15 minutes, so you'll never have longer than a 15-minute wait. And the reason we have so much true crime content in the museum is actually because of the owner's investigation into the John Wayne Gacy case. For over a decade now, they've been devoting themselves to an intensive investigation into the Gacy case to try to address some of the mismanagement of the original investigation. You might think it's pointless to investigate a case that's so old, but there's actually a lot of factors in the case that were inadequately investigated, unknown loose ends and unanswered questions, including who all of the victims actually were. There are still 5 unidentified bodies in that case. Through the museum effort, I've actually managed to get leads on who those people might be. And that shows that more can be done and should be. So we are trying to address some of that. And the museum owners, over the course of this investigation, have been encountering a lot of people and getting information from them about John Wayne Gacy. They've also been getting artifacts from these people. And sometimes these people had not just items related to Gacy, but to other serial killers as well. And that's how all of those items ended up residing inside of this museum. Any questions before we begin? Nope. All right. Well, Satan is waiting for you. You're his first meal of the day, so he is feeling extra peckish. Thank you. Head right on in. I'll be right behind you. So this first room is our Roadside America room. This is inspired by the roadside attractions that were all the rage in the 1950s. If you were on a road trip back then, decide to pull over and check out one of these bizarre little tourist traps, here's some of the treasures you might see. Starting with the taxidermy. Taxidermy of unusual animals was always very popular, and Clementine the cat, here with her 5 beautiful legs, would have been a star attraction. In the corner back there, we have some animals born with multiple heads. And then we have a particularly adorable example in the big glass case on the back wall. These 2 baby lambs are born conjoined to the waist, making it look like they're snuggling together for all eternity. And if that isn't enough extra heads and limbs for you, we have the spider fawn in this top center case here. This one was found stillborn in its road-killed mother's womb with 2 heads and 6 legs. Now, they may look like products of mad science, but all these animals are naturally occurring anomalies. But if you were a skeptical visitor to one of these roadside attractions, you might suspect the proprietors are just taking regular animals and sewing extra junk onto them to grip you. You'd be smart to be wary of that possibility, too. That sort of thing happened all the time. There's even a special name for those deceptive creations. They are known as Gaffs. There are lots of different ways to make a gaff. One popular way was taking multiple species of taxidermied animal, hacking them up, and then suturing them back together into mythical new hybrids that would be presented as authentic wonders of the natural world. One very popular example of that is what's known as a fleet mermaid. They are usually made of the top half of a monkey and the bottom half of a fish. But you can mix up that recipe, get real creative. We've got several unique specimens in this room. That little red head in the upper left-hand case is particularly unique. She was made by an artist named Homer Tate, who constructed her out of his wife's hair, which he quietly collected while she was sleeping, his dead cat's teeth, and the leg of a mummified turtle. He put that all together with a little bit of clay and a whole lot of love, and he named her Fish Girl. Homer Tate was an extremely prolific gaff artist, sometimes known as the King of Gaffs, but his career came to a sudden end in the 1950s when he got a little too ambitious and decided just making gaffs wasn't enough for him anymore. He wanted to make something real, too. That might seem like a pretty nice idea, but in Homer Tate's case, it was a bad one. He wanted to start making genuine shrunken human heads. To make a genuine shrunken human head, you need to start out with a genuine human corpse. He was caught helping himself to some of those from local cemeteries. So he wound up in a jail cell for grave robbing, and they would not let him out until he promised both his grave robbing and the third one hanging in the taller case with its long, luxurious hair. Now, we did not label the real one because we did not want to deprive you of the fun of guessing. So in a few minutes at the end of the tour of the first room, I'll give you an opportunity to make a guess, but I'd hate to spoil it too quickly when some of you haven't had a chance to get up close and personal with them yet. On the wall back there, we have some photographs of Homer Tate hard at work on his creations. Don't worry, he's not messing with any actual human corpses in any of those photographs. Next thing I'll point out about this room is the unique wood that's covering the walls. This charred wood came from the burnt down house of a legendary voodoo practitioner named Ophelia Baker, who was also known as Madame Truth. She was a renowned psychic, fortune teller, and voodoo worker in Savannah in the early 1900s. You can see her in this photograph. She's the one in the white collar, standing in front of the doorway to her house. After she passed the other side in the late 1970s, that house was eventually abandoned and it stood empty for many years. Eventually it burned down in 2017, but the owners of the museum were able to reach out to her family and ask if they could reclaim some of the wood that was going to be thrown away. And that is the wood that you now see covering the walls of this room that was placed there as a way to honor her memory and preserve her legacy. And the family gave us some other items from her property as well, including this mysterious coffin spell that was found buried in the yard. Now this came to the museum's seal. The family had zero interest in opening it. But the owners of the museum can't resist opening mysterious stuff like that, which so brings me to this little window in the wall right here. When the owners of the museum rented out this space, they noticed there were some strange areas on the blueprints of the building that didn't match up to what they were seeing with their own eyes in the physical space. Turns out there were several false walls throughout the building, including in this room, where it looked like there should have been a closet in the corner according to the blueprints, but all they could see was an unfinished plywood wall. Naturally, they got curious and pried that wall up to see what they would really find back there, and they did find a closet, and it wasn't empty. This might be the weirdest thing they found in there. It's a home-recorded record labeled Chanting, Speaking in Tongues, and Sermon. And if you'd like to see the other things they found, we still have them back here. So you can comp one by one, take a peek in there if you like. All right, friends. Well, now that you've had a moment to think it over, would anyone care to make a guess as to which is the genuine shrunken human head? The one on the far left is by far the most popular guess, so don't feel bad that you got it wrong. It's the one next to it, the largest one with the feathers, which tends to be the last one that anyone guesses. If you're curious about how to make one, we have a little recipe card in the lower right-hand corner of that taller case. Feel free to snap a reference picture if you're looking for a fun new hobby. Any questions about anything else in this room? All right, we'll look around here as long as you like. Whenever you're ready to move on to the rest of the museum, head through these crushed velvet curtains. Go straight down to the Candlelit Catacomb, get to the Anton, LaVey, and Church of Satan exhibit. You can also take a detour into that mirrored room with purple lights. That one's all about infamous suicide cult Heaven's Gate and other matters of extraterrestrial intrigue. All right, have a wonderful time, friends.
Thank you. famously founded the Church of Satan in San Francisco in 1966. Public persona. He appeared in modern occult and Satanism-related documentary projects like An American Satan 2019 and The Second Coming of Satan 2021. The display centers around a homemade altar belonging to Chris Carr, a theistic Satanist and ritual practitioner who dabbled in multiple esoteric and occult disciplines. A heavily utilized homemade altar covered in layers of melted candle wax found ritual objects, including human hair and explicit phallic icons, historical, occult, and esoteric. Books curated directly from Carr's personal library. Don't remember. H. Holmes, a charismatic, psychopathic doctor who constructed a nearby labyrinthine hotel custom-built to trap, torture, Grady Franklin Stiles, Jr., June 26, 1937, November 29, 1992, was an American freak show performer and murderer. He had the genetic condition ectrodactyly, in which the fingers and toes are fused together to form claw-like extremities. Because of this, Stiles performed under the stage name Lobster Boy. James Warren Jones, May 13, 1931, November 18, 1978, was an American cult leader, preacher, and mass murderer who founded and led the People's Temple between 1955 and 1978. The Waco tragedy was a violent 51-day siege in 1993 near Waco, Texas.
For myself, sorry. Still need caffeine. I'm still waking up. But I'm Sophia. I'll be your guide. John Wayne Gacy was a Chicago-based serial killer convicted of murdering 33 teenage boys and young men in the 1970s. But once he was placed on death row in 1980, he was placed there as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. It's just that that's where he sat for 14 and a half years afterwards. He kept filing appeals, and they can't proceed with your execution if you have an appeal in progress, and Gacy knew this, so he filed his appeals accordingly. So not only could he afford them, he filed them so they rolled into one another. Simultaneously, he had one going for nearly 15 extra years, which he bought himself on Earth and used by, making claims, as these types of criminals always do, that that's not the full story. And Gacy's claims included accomplices, that there were others that shared responsibility for murders and burial of bodies on his property, which sounds like a load of bullshit coming from somebody that's literally a clown. So nobody listened to it, even his own appellate lawyers, until those very people were looking at evidence corroborating those claims a month prior to his execution in 94. At that moment, they had a date of May 10th of 1994, and the lawyers had requested some records of Gacy's business records from the state, and they finally got them a couple weeks prior to this execution date, pretty inconveniently. But when they looked into those business records, they found there were receipts placing him outside of the state of Illinois when several victims were killed. So they did want to look into this further. They just had to buy themselves more time to do so. They take this evidence to the appellate courts, and they are met with a no, a flat-out refusal, that it is too close to something that is so long overdue. He's exhausted his appeal efforts. It's literally too little too late for John Wayne Gacy. So they do proceed as scheduled before his execution, May 10th of 1994. And that's a satisfying conclusion to the case, but it does leave so many unanswered questions that are far less satisfying. Now, we have been looking into things like accomplices, but also additional victims. And some in other states, mishandling of the investigation, connections to trafficking rings, an amount of research over this long that has culminated in case-altering information. And a docu-series that we are really eager to share with you guys. It's shot and some of it edited, but we have run out of funds. That's the biggest obstacle for us right now. So by being here, you have already helped with that. We are a small business and self-funded, which keeps the narrative in our hands. But that also means that our wallet is not endless. So while we chip away at this obstacle, we will give you a way to keep up with that progress. We do want to share something with you. Not only the museum so far, but what we have collected in regards to this case numbers over 2,000. There's not that many things in the next room, but there's enough for us to have a conversation about what we have uncovered. So you can treat each of the items we'll come in across in there as a lead, because that's what they are for us. Now, if you would like some more information about this model home, it's a pretty interesting, more recently added piece. Now, this is a scale model of Gacy's house at 8213 West Summerdale. That is where he lived, killed his victims, and hid 29 of their bodies. This model of it's mostly made popsicle sticks and cigar boxes. Now, surprisingly, it took 3 whole months to make out of those materials, each of them cut with a sharpened tuna can and fingernail clippers. That is because John Wayne Gacy made it himself on death row, and that is all he had available to make it out of. And once completed, presented it like an appeal. That they couldn't kill him. They needed to look at his trial and his case again. Somebody lied on the stand. What Gacy was trying to say with this is that a chloroformed assault survivor got some details of his house wrong. It's the chloroformed man, but not that he didn't assault that person, Jeffrey Ricknall. So that's a peek into how his mind worked. So more interestingly about it for us at the museum is who we get it from, because it was the same person Gacy gave it to. In fact, it's the man in the Polaroid with him. For Gacy, Randy White, pictured there, is his young amateur researcher that looked into whatever he told him to. But for us, it's the guy that tangibly connected him to trafficking rings. That was his purpose for working for Gacy. He had been assaulted when he was younger. As far as we know, Randy wasn't assaulted by Gacy, but had a theory from that people like John Wayne Gacy, pedophiles, are connected by trafficking rings. So he did a very brave thing to prove that correct by reaching out to one of the most notorious pedophiles of all time. And he was successful. So I wonder, why did Randy have to do that? Took decades and a former assault survivor to consider that Gacy had friends that were like-minded. Seems pretty obvious from 126. But as you enter the exhibit proper, this current iteration of it was not the plans originally. A decade's worth of research has, progressed, and that means that this exhibit has evolved, and now it has a lot of paintings, a lot more than we could have fathomed. So I'm going to introduce those first to get it out of the way. The paintings back here, I'll introduce you to John Pecoraro. This was Gacy's cell neighbor on death row. John Pecoraro and his bodyguard. His artwork excluded, these were painted by Gacy while he was on death row. And what you see in this room, what we're surrounded by, is the largest collection of Gacy death row artwork on display anywhere in the world. And at the same time, a drop in the bucket, which is all it ever will be, because John Wayne Gacy painted in total almost 2,500. A terrifying amount of artwork, and it funded his lifestyle and legal expenses for 14 and a half years, over 2,400 paintings, paid for things like 17 appeals, which alone would have racked up quite the bill for him, probably been enough to keep him painting. But I fully believe that at the end of the day, John Wayne Gacy never stopped painting because he never ceased to have a market for it. And the pen pals that were writing to him incessantly, they were always requesting more artwork. They were always happy to fork over the cash for it, even as the prices increased. And so, while many of these paintings are from his house like that, Gacy did employ art dealers. who helped him to not only meet the increased demand, they funneled the cash around him into his commissary and kept his hands clean of it. So that's kind of how he subverted the prison eyes for a little bit longer. Now, this personal stuff, this is from his sister. So Gacy was the middle child. He had an older sister, Joanne, and a younger sister, Karen, who we got to know personally. Now, Karen was an extremely sweet woman we were lucky enough to have known, and fortunate to have actually called friend. So now that privilege is to Miss Karen here at the museum. She just passed 2 years ago, unfortunately. She's very generous to share her family photos with us. And some of them come with these childhood memories, which we pass along to you because as the public, what we receive from that is incredibly rare insight into the upbringing of one of the most notorious serial killers, somebody that Karen knew simply as her older brother, John. Now, Karen and John were 2 years apart. They were extremely close as siblings. Into adulthood as well. Both parties would have said that, but Karen thought they stayed as close as they always had been, and unfortunately, she found out with the rest of the world what he had done. So the family was horrified and disgusted, severed their connection to John completely, but Karen, being so close with him mentally, was not able to do the same. So she was the executor of his estate, and that means she had collected everything left behind in his cell. She hugged her brother goodbye and drove away with her car packed of all of his items from his cell. So that is why we have those items, and some of them are in this room. And that's the foundation we'd like you to have for our exhibit. And now that you have it, do you have any questions? It's a lot. And now there's a lot to see. So I'm going to turn you guys loose and stay as long as you'd like. Of course, there's no time limit. You don't have to wait for me to exit. Just slip back out that red velvet rope. But my name is Sophia, and I'm here to answer questions, so don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
John Wayne Gacy, born March 17, 1942, Chicago, Illinois, U.S. died May 10, 1994, Statesville, Illinois. In the 1970s received international media attention and shocked his suburban Chicago community, where he was known for his sociability and his performance as a clown at charitable events and children's parties. Gacy was convicted of murder in 1980, and he was executed in 1994. Gacy was born into a blue-collar family, the only son of Marion Nee Robinson Gacy and John Stanley Gacy. The family also included two sisters. He was named after the movie star John Wayne. Gacy's father was an alcoholic, and he was reportedly abusive to his son. John Wayne Gacy dropped out of high school and briefly lived in Las Vegas. He worked at a mortuary for several months before returning to Illinois. Shortly thereafter, he enrolled at Northwestern Business College and graduated in 1963. In 1964, Gacy married Marlon Myers. The couple moved to Waterloo, Iowa, where Gacy managed several Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises owned by his father-in-law. Gacy and his wife later had a son and daughter. Gacy was active in the community and was a prominent member of the Jaycees. However, he also began exhibiting a growing tendency toward sadism, which resulted in several encounters with the law. Although sentenced to 10 years in prison, Gacy was paroled in 1970 and he moved back to Chicago. In 1971, he was arrested for sexual assault on 2 separate occasions, but the charges were dropped in both cases. During this time, Gacy, with help from his mother, purchased a home in Norwood Park Township outside Chicago. Soon after being arrested, Gacy admitted to the murders. He later pleaded innocent by reason of insanity.
Have you been in before?
Have
you been in before?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's not a chronological order to things, but it does start with some of the earlier stuff over here, obviously with the family stuff. But by the time you get to the yellow wall, that's the latter years for him. You can see that he actually got worse over time, and then you can see the variety in the subjects he was painting varies so greatly because he's pandering to the type of people that are writing to him, which is the punk rock scene, and he even mentions that in this letter to Ronnie Kramer, which this collection's from Ronnie, as well as the seemingly random people around the corner that are like in a row. Looks like Selena and Pablo Escobar. Yeah, that's friends of his that he commissioned paintings of. So he was trying to work on a documentary. That's why he bought so many.
Still in prison now, or is he dead?
Gacy? He's executed.
Okay. I kind of
Ronnie Kramer also passed away. So he, 2021. So we never got to meet Ronnie. We bought his estate from his widow. But we have his binder of notes, and that's going to live on in a way into our documentary. But it's a huge, I mean, not just time investment, a monetary investment into this documentary, because special commissions were always the most expensive item. And he seemed to get quite a few of those because he obviously had one of himself and some of his artwork, but Gacy wasn't super talented, so he didn't keep buying them because they were good.
Gotcha.
He just knew that with a person like Gacy, you gotta invest in them and not expect anything back right away as a narcissist and a manipulator. And that's why I think he really favored Ronnie. Look how happy he is. He didn't always smile like that in his picture. But this letter's pretty telling as well. The tone of it's quite different than some of the other letters you might read in this exhibit alone.
While in prison, Gacy claimed to have committed other murders, though those were never confirmed. After all his appeals were denied, Gacy was executed by lethal injection in 1994.
And all those stories about John Wayne Gacy, the first and the first few years of the Hollywood movie, have brought that dreadful and tragic experience back to light for his family, especially for his ex-wife, who's been hiding from the story and home for 13 years to wish it away. To somehow ease the pressure of keeping it all inside, she came here this afternoon.
Thank you. And if y'all have questions for this exhibit here that we it's not going to resolve right, but it does change every so often. Here, where you can sit on the couch and have your photo with this fella.
I've seen the bottom part, but I didn't see the steps.
Yeah, this is original wood panels from Belle Gunness's property. Her shed is the only thing that did survive. Her house burned down, obviously. Here, it's a great example of dark tourism, which we see to this day. But that is basically where they found out about the crimes that all these Victorian era people traveling to her burnt down house and peering inside. They got children, everybody's all dressed up, and they carved their names just like Jimmy was here, you know? And this is the golden standard of provenance, which is really hard to prove when you get back this far. It means that people have made the decision way up to us to keep this information with the item. So this is something that you can flip through. Okay. It doesn't say it yet, but this person did quite an amount of, they actually documented each person that signed the wood. Here's some articles about the shed. Unfortunately, they had to make the decision to, the shed left the property and then storage started to deteriorate. So they wanted to go ahead and catalog all this. But there's also some autopsy reports and, you know, depositions. Pretty cool.
And who is this? I don't remember.
Belle Gunness. Yeah, she is Hell's Bells, a black widow. Put an ad out in the paper, Victorian era woman with a shed, a property, a farmhouse in Chicago, putting out ads in newspapers for bachelors who would show up to her house to help her, because she's like, I'm just a lady, I'm single, I can't run it all by myself. I'm Norwegian. If you're Norwegian, that's even better. I'll make us food from our hometown, you know, and it'll be like a little slice of home. So she's targeting immigrants, and they were showing up and dying. And when the heat, she found out they were coming after, conveniently,
internet dating back then.
Right. Yes. We've got some more Angel of Death. Incredible at chemistry. She was able to get the mixture just right. She liked to watch the light fade from their eyes. She is similar, kind of like another Black Widow. Went with the insanity fence. A lot of these people did. Women were not enduring for years in those days, and men did not see women as independent humans capable of equal destruction. And so they thought, well, she's probably just crazy, right? There's got to be a reason a lady would do something like that. Bloody Bender's pretty famous case. And this is our Lizzie Borden.
That's the only one I remember is that one.
Yeah, and so this is the opposite end of provenance, where that is well documented. This is not, and who we get it from is somebody that we trust and is always done right by us. So we are going off of that trust, but at the same time, we have no way to prove this.
Yeah.
So is it from Lizzie? We may never know.
Makes sense.
And that's actually a descendant of sorry, I need to know what's going on. Owner of the museum. That's his family member. Actually, same side of the family as Grandpa. The skeleton downstairs. This guy's real pretty. He's like our fish. If you have any questions, let us know.
Okay, thank you. Just like Tate. The French Ripper. I remember Lizzie going.
The Bloody Benders were a family of serial killers, John Sr., his wife Elvira, their son John Jr., and their daughter Kate, who operated a roadside inn and general store in Labette County, Kansas. From 1871 to 1873, they are considered America's first family of serial killers, responsible for murdering at least 11 travelers before fleeing when their crimes were uncovered. Belle Gunness, nicknamed Hell's Belle and the Black Widow of LaPorte. She was an active serial killer in Illinois and Indiana during the late 19th and early 20th centuries.